I was a beta, just an ordinary one, until the day I suddenly caught the scent of my aloof roommate, an alpha. And worse than that, I became dependent on it. When he wasn't in the dorm, my chest felt tight, my skin itched with restlessness. I found myself secretly sniffing his clothes just to calm down. As the craving grew stronger, I tried to hint at him politely. "Hey, could you maybe keep your scent under control while we're in the room?" His eyes darkened slightly. "You can smell it?" he asked, sounding puzzled. I nodded. He stepped closer, his voice low and calm. "So, that means you can be marked? Welcome to Avenor BL, where words whisper love and hearts find warmth. You're listening to an original BL story, brought to life through voice and emotion. Let your heart rest, and let the story begin." When I first started college, I arrived late. The dorms were full, so I was assigned to a 2-person mixed dorm. I already knew my roommate was an alpha, but when I actually saw him, I finally understood what people meant by superior genes. I was about 6 feet tall, but he was easily an inch taller, broad shoulders, quiet presence, cold eyes. "Hey man, you're tall," I said, trying to start a friendly conversation. He just glanced at me, said nothing, and went back to unpacking. "Okay then." I clicked my tongue and climbed onto my bed to sort my stuff. A small card on his bed caught my eye. Name, Derek. Major, artificial intelligence. I was studying software engineering. Same department, so we'd see each other often during military training. But Derek never said a word to me. After getting ignored a few times, I stopped trying to be friendly. One afternoon, my friend Luke threw his arm around my shoulder. "Vance, isn't that your roommate?" "Don't remind me," I groaned. "He's so full of himself. It's been a week and he's spoken to me maybe 3 times. Luke chuckled, tugging off his training cap. "That's alphas for you? Always acting like they're on top of the world." We bought sandwiches and sat down to eat. Halfway through, Luke suddenly nudged me. "Hey Vance, look behind you, someone's confessing." "What?" I turned around immediately. There was a big crowd forming, and at the center of it was Derek, calmly eating his lunch. In front of him stood a nervous-looking Omega holding a small black envelope. That Omega had clearly done their homework. Derek's bedding, his desk setup, even his laptop case, all black. The guy probably thought matching Derek's aesthetic would help. Meanwhile, my side of the room looked like a rainbow exploded. Sometimes, I honestly wondered if Derek ever got tired of all that black. In the middle of the cheers and teasing, Derek finished the last bite of his meal, wiped his mouth with a napkin, and stood up. "Excuse me," he said flatly. "Please move." The crowd fell silent. Even I was shocked. So it wasn't just me, he was cold to everyone. That night, after training, I returned to the dorm drenched in sweat. The room was dark and stuffy, so I turned on the air conditioner and went straight into the bathroom. The bright light hit my eyes the moment I opened the door. "Damn it, Derek forgot to turn off the light again," I muttered, squinting, then froze. He was there. Apparently just out of the shower, with water dripping from his chin, tracing down his chest. Okay, that's a lot. Was that size even humanly possible? "Out," he said calmly. I snapped out of it, pretending to stay cool. "Sorry. Thought it was empty." Once I stepped out, I squatted down and buried my face in my hands. So embarrassing. So humiliating. And worse, I was another guy. My self-esteem took a major hit. Before I could think of how to face him again, Derek walked out, wrapped in a towel, expression unreadable. I immediately looked away. Then, to my surprise, he spoke first. "You can take your shower. Don't worry, I won't walk in on you." That wasn't comforting. Was that a jab? Still, as I went to the bathroom, I noticed something weird. His ears were slightly red. Hadn't he just showered? Was he overheated or something? Anyway, that awkward incident actually thawed things between us a bit. He was still distant, but at least he replied when I talked. One day, I said out of nowhere, "The sandwiches on the 3rd floor of the cafeteria are amazing." He didn't even look up from his book. "Got it," he said. Cold as ever, but I counted it as progress. Days passed, and before I knew it, the month-long military training was over. The only evidence of time passing was my slightly darker skin tone. Then one afternoon, while lying in bed for a nap, I caught a faint scent, minty, clean, and refreshing. I looked around. He wasn't chewing gum, and we didn't have mint plants on the windowsill. Must be my imagination, I thought. But the next day, the scent was stronger. That subtle freshness filled the air, and each time I breathed it in, I felt strangely calm. Even the summer heat didn't bother me. But as soon as I stepped out of the dorm, the scent vanished, and my body burned up again. Sweat trickled down my temples. Luke looked at me, startled. "Dude, are you that hot?" I fanned myself. "Aren't you?" He pointed to the standing AC in the classroom. "It's set to 68 degrees. I blinked. Guess it's just the weather. When I returned to the dorm, the moment I opened the door, a strong wave of mint scent hit me. It was coming from Derek, who was sitting at his desk. Within seconds, my skin cooled down. What the heck? I glanced at his wrist, no scent suppressor. A wild thought crossed my mind. Could it be, as a beta, I was actually smelling an alpha's pheromones? More than that, only his pheromones. As I stood there dazed, Derek said quietly, "Your ice cream's melting." I looked down. The popsicle was dripping down my hand. I reached for a napkin, fumbling. Derek handed me a few. "Here." "Thanks," I said, quickly wiping my hand. Then, to my surprise, he crouched down and cleaned the drops from the floor. I was oddly touched. Finally, the ice prince had a hint of humanity. That night, lying in bed, I decided to test my theory. I created a new account online, listed my secondary gender as Omega, and sneaked into an Omega forum. Derek was a hot topic there. One post about him already had over 3,000 replies. I posted a question. "Hey, does anyone know what Derek's pheromones smell like? I'm really curious." 10 minutes passed, no replies, though the view count kept climbing. Staring at the screen, I drifted off to sleep. The next morning, I woke up burning. Felt like a fire was running through my veins. I gasped, stumbling to lower the air conditioner. It was already set to 60. My breathing filled the quiet room. Derek had gone to a meeting today. How convenient. Every time he was gone, I overheated. When he was here, I was fine. I grabbed my phone and checked the forum post. Someone had replied. "Oh, I know this one. Derek's pheromones smell like mint." I froze. So I really had smelled an alpha's pheromones. My body trembled as heat surged again. On impulse, I opened Derek's closet. The faint scent of mint lingered inside, instantly calming me. I stood there, stunned. Oh no. I was addicted to his scent. I still hadn't recovered from the shock when my body started heating up again. Standing outside the closet wasn't enough anymore. I reached out, wanting to touch the neatly arranged clothes inside. Then suddenly, I snapped out of it and pulled my hand back fast. What was I even doing? He wasn't here, and I was sneaking around touching his clothes. That was just creepy. Forcing my gaze away from the clothes that carried that faint, tempting scent, I shut the wardrobe door hard. Lying back on my bed, I felt my whole body burning. A quiet sound slipped out of my throat before I could stop it. If Derek heard me now, I'd never be able to show my face again. A straight beta like me reduced to this, no way. I grabbed the edge of my shirt and bit down on it. Above my bed, the ceiling fan creaked and spun fast, the air conditioner blasting at its lowest temperature. I didn't know how long I held it together. Then my mind started to wander. It's fine, just a touch. Just one little touch. Derek wouldn't even know. While convincing myself, I climbed out of bed and walked toward his closet. The moment I opened it, I grabbed one of his jackets. Instantly, a rush of something I couldn't describe exploded from my fingertips and spread through every nerve in my body. It reached all the way up to my head, and my scalp tingled. The wave of relief made my knees weak, but so did the shame. My face was burning red. "What are you doing?" A deep voice brushed right past my ear, every word clear and steady. I froze. Derek had come back without me hearing a thing. Sweat rolled down my temples. Once you've felt something that good, going back to nothing is unbearable. I thought for a while, then edged closer to him. Derek, did you wash your clothes from yesterday? Not yet, he said, looking up from his laptop. Why? My heart jumped, but I kept my face calm. Mind if I toss them in with mine? I only have 2 shirts, it's a waste to run the washer just for that. He studied me for a couple of seconds. I don't mind. I grabbed the basin and walked to his laundry basket. The moment I crouched down, that addictive mint scent hit me again. I couldn't help taking a deep breath. Cool mint rushed through me, settling the restless heat inside. Still inhaling, I hugged the clothes and headed downstairs, not realizing Derek's eyes followed me the whole time. When I finally tossed the clothes into the washing machine, I let out a long sigh. What was wrong with me? I'd have to see a doctor this weekend. Just thinking about how my calm life had been flipped upside down because of my cold roommate made my stomach twist. I reached for the detergent, only to realize I'd forgotten it. I groaned and turned around, but before I could move, a hand reached out beside my head and a quiet voice came from behind. Figured you forgot it, Derek said. So I brought it down. I didn't hear half of what he said. My focus was locked on the warmth of his hand brushing my shoulder. The craving for his scent came roaring back. My throat tightened as I tried to push down the urge to lean into him. I wanted to hold him, to be closer. It felt like I was stranded in a desert, and Derek was the only source of water I could reach. Vance? He patted my shoulder gently. Yeah? I managed. You spaced out. Yeah, I said again, my eyes landing, unintentionally, on his lips. The mint scent was stronger here. As if pulled by something invisible, I tilted my head up, closing the space between us. Just before our lips met, Derek pressed a finger to my forehead, leaning back slightly. Were you trying to kiss me? Without thinking, I nodded. Then reality hit me. My body stiffened, the rush of panic chasing away the haze. Was this what pheromones could do? Completely override reason? Forget the weekend. I needed that doctor today. Derek raised a brow. Why did you want to kiss me? I couldn't find an answer. His mouth curved just slightly. You like me? I shook my head too fast and almost choked on my own breath. And no. The smile disappeared instantly. Then what were you trying to do? After a long hesitation, I forced the truth out. Derek, I think I can smell your pheromones. He didn't even look surprised. He just asked. And then? His tone was calm, but there was a hint of curiosity underneath. I swallowed hard. I think I've become dependent on it. If it hadn't happened to me, I'd have laughed at how ridiculous that sounded. But Derek took it in stride. Dependent how? I closed my eyes and admitted, I just want to smell it. He looked down at me, his voice low. Is that all? I hesitated. I also want to touch, maybe even kiss. Before reason could stop me, I leaned in again and brushed my lips against his. The rush was overwhelming. I pulled back after just a second, dizzy from it. Derek hadn't moved at all. I'm sorry, I blurted out. I didn't mean. I just lost control again. Suddenly, the air changed. His pheromones filled the space, subtle but unmistakable. My knees went weak, and I would have fallen if he hadn't caught me. His arm wrapped around my waist, firm and unyielding. Your legs go weak just from that? He murmured. Sensitive, aren't you? The contact sent a spark through me. Every nerve in my body lit up. I looked up, vision slightly blurred. So, Derek said quietly, in theory, you can be marked, can't you? He brushed his thumb across the corner of my eye, wiping away the moisture there. I blinked rapidly, forcing my voice steady. No. I'm a beta. My glands can't store pheromones. Derek's hand slid to the back of my neck, and I almost buckled again. If this kept going, I was done for. His presence alone was enough to pull me apart. Derek, are you free this afternoon? Yeah. Why? Can you come to the hospital with me? I need to get checked. Maybe there's a cure. For a second, I thought his expression darkened, but he nodded. Sure. I let out a long breath. Maybe he wasn't as cold as he seemed. If I went alone, claiming I could smell an alpha's pheromones as a beta. They'd probably send me to psych. With Derek there, at least they'd take it seriously. But the diagnosis was worse than I expected. The condition is called beta pheromone deficiency syndrome, the doctor said, adjusting his glasses. Only one recorded case in the world. I frowned. But I've been fine for 18 years. Why now? Why only after meeting Derek? The doctor pointed at him. Your glands were dormant. His pheromones awakened them. From now on, you can and will only perceive his scent. Silence hung in the air. Living with Derek made it manageable. But what about after graduation, when he wouldn't be there? Just thinking about that unbearable heat made my stomach twist. Is there a cure? I asked quietly. The doctor shook his head. None. The only way is gradual withdrawal. But success rates are unknown. So, I'd have to fight this on my own. Then Derek spoke, his tone calm. Can he be marked? My eyes widened. What kind of question was that? A beta being marked? I turned toward him. He'd asked the same thing once before. Why was he so fixated on it? The doctor nodded. In theory, yes. The mark just wouldn't last as long as it does for an omega. I see, Derek said, lifting his gaze slightly. He almost looked pleased. Let's go back. I dropped my head, feeling drained. Yeah, let's go. As soon as Derek stepped into the dorm, he took off his suppressor band without hesitation, letting his scent fill the room freely. The air seemed to bloom with the freshness of mint. The determination I'd built up to stay detached crumbled the moment that familiar fragrance reached me. Smelled too good. Too clean, too intoxicating. I turned my head slightly, stealing a glance at him, curious despite myself. Maybe my stare was too obvious, because Derek looked right back at me. His voice was calm, almost teasing. Not enough? At the same time, the air grew thicker, the scent doubling in strength. The sudden rush made me sigh out softly before I could stop myself. The sound slipped out, breaking the silence between us. I wanted to sink into the floor, bury my face somewhere, and disappear. Why did I make that sound? Derek's lips curved faintly. Not bad, he said. I looked up at him in surprise. Even though I always told myself I was straight, I couldn't deny that I was drawn to his looks. Derek had the kind of face that could undo a person if they stared too long. If he ever decided to show just a little more warmth toward me, I knew it would be over. I'd fall for him sooner or later. After that day, I tried to keep my guard up, terrified that he might actually make me fall for him. But Derek remained relaxed, as if none of this bothered him in the slightest. I'm free today, he said casually. Want to grab dinner together? Sure, I answered. After I confessed everything about my condition, I started going out more. Once Luke and I went out to eat. First, everything felt normal. Maybe I was getting better? That thought barely had time to settle before a burning wave rose inside me, searing through every inch of my body. You're sweating a lot, Luke said, handing me a napkin. I gripped the edge of my shirt, trying desperately to hold myself together. Less than a minute later, I couldn't. I stumbled into the restroom. Cold water did little to help. In a panic, I pulled out my phone and called Derek. He picked up after one ring. Hey, Vance. Derek, my voice trembled. It's happening again. Can you come over? Send me your location. My fingers shook as I sent it. His voice dropped, a rough edge in it. I'm nearby. 10 minutes. Okay. When I hung up, all my strength left me, and I slumped to the floor. Outside, Luke's voice sounded worried. Vance? You okay? Do you need to go to the hospital? I'm fine, I called back, forcing calm into my tone. I needed him to leave before Derek arrived, or I'd have no way to explain this. Derek came in less than 10 minutes. He pushed the door open, saw me huddled in the corner, and pulled me up without a word. The air around him carried that same cooling scent, seeping through my skin. Let's get you out of here, he said. He took off his jacket and draped it over my shoulders. The faint mint fragrance lingered near my face, easing the chaos inside me. But this time was worse, stronger than before. Simply smelling the air wasn't enough. I wanted something closer. Derek noticed. He led me to the stairwell, quiet and empty, where every breath echoed sharply between the walls. His Adam's apple moved twice before he spoke. Still feel bad? I leaned weakly against him. Yeah. His hand lifted, fingers tilting my chin upward. Is this okay? Just 3 words, but I knew what he meant. I nodded. Then he leaned down, and his lips met mine. It wasn't deep, just enough to steady my breathing, to quiet the storm under my skin. Still, my knees nearly gave out. Thankfully, Derek's reflexes were quick. He caught me easily, holding me steady until I could breathe again. When we returned to the restaurant, I was wearing his jacket. Derek excused himself to the restroom. Luke blinked at me. Why'd you change clothes? I ran into a classmate, I lied quickly. He lent me a jacket. Oh. Luke looked half convinced, then frowned. Your lips look kinda swollen. I grabbed a slice of beef and dropped it into his bowl. Too spicy. He laughed and dropped the subject. After dinner, Derek and I went back to the dorm. When I came out of the shower, the air was heavy again, mint mixed with something sharp, restless. The curtains were drawn tight. The room was dim. Derek? I called softly. You here? I'm here. His voice was hoarse, strained. It's my heat cycle. I froze. For a moment I considered walking right out. I didn't know much about alpha cycles, but I knew they weren't safe times. Even their omega partners usually kept their distance then. But I wasn't an omega. I was a beta. I should be fine. Besides, after everything he'd done for me, after all the times he'd helped when I needed his scent, I couldn't just walk away now. I pulled back the corner of his curtain. How are you feeling? He wasn't lying down. He sat cross-legged on the bed, his dark eyes gleaming in the dim light, filled with something dangerously sharp. Sweat ran down his temples, the drops catching faintly as they fell. Not great, he said quietly. Are you scared? I was, but I shook my head. His gaze traveled over me, slow and searching, from head to toe and back again. For some reason, the dormant glands at the back of my neck tingled faintly, then went still again. You should rest, I said, avoiding his eyes. I'll stay here. He didn't move. Can you get me some water? Sure. I poured a glass and tapped the headboard lightly, signaling for him to take it. Instead, he pulled the curtain aside and leaned forward. Up close, I could hear the rough rhythm of his breathing, heavy, uneven. I was about to ask if he needed to go to the infirmary when his hand caught mine. I've borrowed your scent so many times, he said softly. Will you help me now? I don't have any scent, I stammered. Derek ignored that. His hand slid to the back of my neck, fingers brushing the small bump there. He pressed gently. You do. I shivered. Then, how should I help you? I asked. His scent grew heavier, unsteady. I could feel it in my own pulse, rising like a fever. That's when I realized his emotions could sway me. My body responded to him instinctively. If I didn't stop this soon, I'd lose myself completely. But when I looked up, saw the intensity in Derek's eyes, I couldn't bring myself to say it. He stepped down from the bed, his presence filling the room. Despite his strength, his voice came out soft. Vance, can I smell you? He added quickly, just like you've smelled mine before. Couldn't say no. I nodded. I couldn't see what he did, only felt his breath, warm and steady, ghosting over the back of my neck. A tremor ran through me. And then he stopped. True to his word, he didn't cross the line. Before things could spiral out of control, Derek went to the school infirmary and placed himself under isolation. I visited him often, not because he asked, but because I couldn't stay away. Vance, you've gone to see him 5 times today, Luke said one afternoon, fanning himself. Do you even have classes? I couldn't tell him the truth, that I was dependent on Derek's scent. It was too hard to explain. So I lied, smiling faintly. He's my roommate. I'm just helping him out. Luke snorted. Sure. Helping. You two are starting to look more like a couple than roommates. My steps faltered for a moment, but I said nothing. I asked the doctor. She said you'll be discharged tonight. One hand holding a chilled fruit juice, I reached out and intertwined fingers with Derek. During the few days he'd been in isolation, I'd secretly started a detox, a plan to slowly free myself from my growing dependence on his pheromones. Whenever the craving became unbearable, I'd go find Derek. Without asking, he'd quietly extend his hand for me to hold. From 5 minutes away from his scent, I managed to push it to 2 hours. Next would be 4, then 6, then 8. If everything went smoothly, I would eventually break free. It was a steady plan, until the day Derek returned to the dorm. He didn't know about my detox, so the moment he stepped in, his pheromones filled the room again, sharp, cool, and vividly minty. The heat I'd worked so hard to suppress instantly flared back to life. My cells seemed to remember the addiction too well. That's when I realized desire doesn't fade. It multiplies. The more I tried to resist, the stronger it came back. Trying to sound casual, I said, "Hey, could you hold back your pheromones a little while we're in the dorm?" The words came out wrong, cold, almost heartless. Like I was using him and now wanted to walk away. Predictably, Derek's expression darkened. "Tired of me already?" he asked flatly. I shook my head. "Found someone else then?" He pressed, his tone sharper now. "What's their scent like? Higher grade than mine? Better than mine?" The rapid questions made my mind spin. Gradually, I noticed the minty scent fading, dissolving into the air as he fastened his inhibitor band. "Don't worry," he said quietly. "I won't release the scent you hate anymore." Only then did I realize he was angry. Before I could explain, I blurted out, "I don't hate it. I'm just trying to stop depending on it." Derek kept his gaze down, silence weighing between us. "My dependence is too strong," I confessed. "If I go a few hours without you, I start to feel sick." He finally looked up. "And what's wrong with that?" I frowned. "You think that's a good thing?" "I do," he said simply. His voice was low, almost possessive. "It means you can't leave me." I didn't understand what he truly meant. "But I'm just causing you trouble." "I don't mind," he said stubbornly. "But I do." Before I could finish, a phone rang. It wasn't mine. Derek answered, his expression unreadable. He said only a short before putting on his jacket and leaving, the door slamming softly behind him. I stared after him, confused. The heart of an alpha, unpredictable, impossible to read. If I didn't start keeping my distance, I might lose control someday. Maybe I already had. I was starting to like him, far more than I should. The memory of that pretty Omega who'd once confessed to him flashed in my mind. Derek had rejected him without hesitation. If even an Omega that stunning wasn't his type, how could a plain beta like me stand a chance? He couldn't know how I felt. If he did, I might lose even the scent I relied on to breathe. When curfew passed and Derek still hadn't come back, I knew he probably wouldn't return that night. That's when panic set in. My longest record without his pheromones was barely 2 hours. If he stayed out all night, I found myself moving before I even realized it. I sat down in his chair, breathing in the faint traces of mint that lingered there. We'd held hands. He'd kissed me once. Sitting in his chair couldn't be that bad, right? But soon the craving intensified. My skin burned. My heartbeat raced. Within 10 minutes I was trembling, searching desperately for his scent. I opened his wardrobe. The moment I touched his jacket, the faint scent calmed me just a little. Still, I couldn't help thinking bitterly, how am I supposed to survive a night without him? My thoughts blurred. Then the door opened. A cool wave of mint swept in, brushing over my senses like relief. Derek. He crouched down in front of me. "What happened to your new crush?" he asked, voice dripping with irony. I wanted to yell, but instead, I could only whisper through clenched teeth, "I don't have one." He leaned closer, his breath brushing my ear. "Really?" Anger flared. "Didn't the doctor tell you? I can only react to your scent." Derek chuckled softly. "Why are you so mad?" Because you did it on purpose, I shot back. I realized something then. The curfew had passed a long time ago. He must have come back earlier and waited outside the whole time. Yeah, he admitted without hesitation. Was it fun teasing me? No, he said. Then after a pause, I just couldn't stand seeing you struggle. His tone softened. I wanted to be the one you rely on. My heart skipped. His words tangled somewhere between affection and confession. I'm afraid you'll get tired of me, I murmured. I won't. He looked directly into my eyes. I like you, and I like that you need me. My breath caught. Derek, the perfect alpha, admired by everyone, liked me? A plain, ordinary beta? What do you like about me? I asked quietly. Everything, he said simply. I didn't mean to, but I keep noticing you, every time. I wanted to believe him, but doubt still lingered. As if reading my thoughts, he added, it's not just impulse. Give me time, I'll prove it. It felt unreal, like a dream I might wake from any moment. Still, I heard myself whisper, okay. Derek smiled faintly. Then, since we're together now, can I hold you? This time I didn't refuse. He drew me gently into his arms. The air was still heavy with mint, but now it carried something warmer, something that felt like peace. That night, we fell asleep side by side, the rhythm of our breathing slowly sinking, as if our scents had already found a quiet balance of their own. After Derek and I officially got together, we were inseparable. But the closer we became, the stronger my sense of dependence grew. I needed to stop it, or I'd never learn to stand on my own again. One evening, I told Derek honestly, though my voice trembled a little. I think we should try to keep some distance. He clearly didn't like the idea, but after a long silence, he nodded. From his expression, you'd think he was the one struggling with withdrawal, not me. The next day, I went to class without wearing Derek's jacket and without the comfort of his scent. I only brought a small fan to help cool myself down. It felt like marching to battle, brave, doomed, and dramatic. Luke stared at me. You're bringing a fan in winter? What are you, a walking furnace? Just taking some supplements, I said quickly. What kind? He pressed. Share the secret. Red dates, I lied without blinking. Within minutes of class starting, the heat rose again. I turned on the fan and leaned into the breeze. Luke gave me a look like I'd lost my mind, and a few classmates glanced over, puzzled. I didn't explain, I couldn't. My teeth pressed into my knuckle, trying to hold back the tension. The moment class ended, I bolted out the door. Derek's classroom was upstairs. Before I could reach it, someone grabbed me and pulled me into a familiar, warm embrace. Luke caught up just in time to see it happen. His jaw practically hit the floor. Vance, you're dating? And with Derek? The campus heartthrob? By afternoon, a photo of us had already made it to the campus forum. The comments exploded. New. Our Omega Dream guy Derek is taken? What a waste of such a perfect alpha. Wait, can betas even? Meanwhile, a group of betas, both girls and guys, were equally heartbroken. Our beta prince is dating an alpha? What are we supposed to do now? Maybe Vance was just too charming, even for an alpha. The person most shocked, though, was Luke. Wait, how long have you two been dating? I thought for a second. About half a year. Luke froze. So I've been bad-mouthing Derek in front of you for 6 months? Pretty much. He groaned. Luke always told me every rumor he saw online, every confession Derek turned down, every campus gossip headline. He always ended with the same complaint, alphas are all the same, too cold for their own good. I laughed. I wanted to tell you so many times. But every time I said, Derek, you'd cut me off with don't talk to me about alphas. Despite all my efforts, the detox wasn't going well. Every time I made progress, one shared moment with Derek, a kiss, a touch, even his scent would undo it all. And then came the news, winter break. I'm not going home, Derek said calmly. I'll stay near your place. That's not okay, I frowned. It's New Year's. You should be with your family. He paused for a second. Then I'll just move mine closer. I blinked. You're kidding. I'm not, he replied. My parents know about your condition. They support me. You're serious? I asked suspiciously. They don't mind me being a beta? Derek booked 2 flight tickets. No. Before meeting you, I'd already decided I was going to stay single forever. And just like that, Derek moved into the apartment building across from mine. We met 5 or 6 times a day, quick walks, quiet talks, sometimes just holding hands before running off again. One afternoon, we were standing close together, lost in our own little world, when a familiar voice called out, "Vance?" It was my mom. I jumped back immediately and waved at Derek to run. Too late. She had already grabbed his arm. She looked him up and down, eyes lighting up like stars. So handsome. An alpha, right? Then she turned to me, half teasing, half disbelieving. How did you manage to catch someone like him? Derek laughed softly. Actually, Auntie, I was the one chasing him. Before I knew it, she had invited him over for dinner. My dad joined us, and somehow my parents managed to get the whole story out of us. The dependency, the symptoms, everything. Dependence? My dad repeated, frowning. That sounds familiar. Just then, the TV news caught our attention. In Country M, the world's only beta diagnosed with pheromone deficiency, held a symbolic wedding ceremony today with his alpha partner. The camera showed a smiling couple standing side by side, holding hands as confetti rained down. They both fought their illness together and, in the end, found peace in each other. Many online are calling their ceremony, "You Are My Only One." I turned to Derek. He was already looking at me. In that moment, I understood. Maybe I didn't need to fight it so hard. Maybe independence didn't mean being alone. It meant choosing to stay, even when you could leave. I reached for his hand under the table and smiled. Whatever the future brought, I would face it with him.
The story ends here. Below are my thoughts and comments on it. When I first read I Was a Beta, I thought it would be just another campus story. But what really surprised me was how it explores dependency and control under the surface of a love story. Derek and Vance's connection feels both dangerous and healing. 2 people trapped between instinct and reason, yet still searching for warmth. I think the author did an amazing job showing that being needed can feel like love, but it can also become a cage. Still, some scenes could have been more subtle. The emotions are strong, but at times, they almost spill over. What stays with me most is the ending. It isn't about dominance or surrender, but acceptance. Maybe love isn't about who saves who, but about learning to breathe together. What do you think? Do you see their relationship as healing or as obsession? Leave your thoughts below. I'd love to hear your take.